Hi, this is Jeremy again. I'm Target here in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And for this video, if you could help me imagine a scenario. Let's imagine a deserted city street at, say, 2 a.m. We zoom into this abandoned city street, and we see that off to the side, down maybe an alleyway, there's a small parking lot. And in this parking lot, there's a garbage truck parked there. The truck is running, and it has a dumpster lifted halfway into the air. I guess we can imagine our camera zooming in closer, and now we're inside the cabin of this garbage truck, where we see that the driver has his phone in his right hand, and the glow of the phone is lighting up his face at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he's staring pretty intently at it, and he's got his left hand on some sort of control mechanism in the truck. And suddenly, we see the phone illuminating his face. For the purposes of this scene, let's imagine that we can't see what's actually on the phone, but we can see the light coming from the phone, and the light flickers somehow or changes, and we see this on his face. And at that exact moment, he pulls the lever that his left hand is touching, and slams the dumpster against the ground, and then lifts it back up again. He doesn't empty it, just slams it on the ground. He continues looking at his phone. Again, the word is intently, or intensely, as if he's waiting for something. A couple of minutes pass, and we see the same thing. We see the light on his phone, from his phone flicker, and he pulls this lever and slams the dumpster on the ground. Well, suddenly, he puts the phone on the passenger seat, backs up the truck almost as fast as he can, takes off out of this alleyway, and turns onto the main street that we first imagined, this abandoned street at 2 o'clock in the morning in some city in America. A couple of blocks away is another dumpster which he pulls up to. He lowers the arms in front of the truck, steers them through slats on the side of the dumpster, and lifts it, not all the way. This time, in addition to lifting the dumpster up in the air, he throws the truck into reverse. He doesn't go anywhere. He just throws the truck into reverse and sits there. And at certain intervals, again, always looking at his phone, he slams the dumpster on the ground for a couple of minutes, repeatedly, while the truck is in reverse. And in addition to hearing the dumpster slam on this empty street at 2 o'clock in the morning, we can also hear the beeping sound from the truck being in reverse echoing down the street. Well, just as suddenly as this strange ritual began, the driver finally tips the dumpster all the way back, empties its contents, slams it on the ground in front of him, backs out of the dumpster so the arms are out, and takes off down the road. Interesting little detail though, about 30 seconds later, the driver, even though nobody is there on this street, he beeps twice. Who knows? We think maybe we're just observers of this scene. Maybe we think maybe he's doing this to tell somebody perhaps inside the building that he was just outside of, that the garbage has been emptied. Who knows what this means? Well, as the garbage truck pulls away, and let's say it's now, who knows, 2:10, 2:15 in the morning, a passenger vehicle pulls up onto the same street. In fact, pulls up to the curb and stops not far from where that second dumpster I described was. A young man gets out of the car and, takes out a cigarette, lights it up, and sits on some steps outside of a building to which that second dumpster I described belongs, probably. And he messes with his phone. Now, so far, we're not observing anything strange or out of the ordinary. Just a young man sitting on the side of the road at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:15. It's a little bit strange that he pulls up at the exact moment that the garbage truck pulls away. But it's not unheard of for a young guy in his early 20s to pull up to some abandoned street corner at 2:15 in the morning and just mess around on his phone and smoke a cigarette. Maybe he can't smoke in his car because somebody else uses it. Well, he's staring at his phone pretty intently. Well, in this modern age, you see a lot of people walking around glued to that phone screen. Perhaps we think he's watching a video. Perhaps he's in a text session with somebody. Perhaps sports highlights. We don't know exactly, because in this scenario we just see his face and the glow of the phone reflected on his face. Suddenly, after a couple of minutes, his expression grows a little bit more serious. He slides his butt along these concrete steps that he's sitting on outside of this building towards a garbage can that's on the sidewalk. And never taking his eyes off the phone, he sticks out his leg and kicks the garbage can. And just like we saw before with our mysterious garbage truck driver who, for some reason, was slamming a dumpster on the ground, we see our young man with a cigarette and the phone begin to, at certain intervals which seem random, he begins to kick this garbage can. And just like our garbage truck driver before him, he too suddenly seems to see something on his phone which makes him decide to leave, and he leaps up, kicking the garbage can one more time as loud as he can. His body language we see as he almost skips back to the car looks like a guy who scored a goal in a game. Very, let's say, jubilant body language. Gets into his car, slams the door, and he pulls away, perhaps peeling the tires. And as he does so, he screams something out the window that we don't understand. Sounds like maybe it could be "what's up" or something like that. Now, if you're following me so far, this scenario, this little street scene in the wee hours of the morning might seem a little bit strange. Or perhaps you've guessed that the scenario that I'm describing is gangstalking activity, and specifically sleep deprivation. Now, our camera in the scene, we have to imagine, pans over from the side of the street where the garbage can was to a group of bushes, behind which there's a tarp shelter, inside of which is a homeless man who is a targeted individual. And what these two gentlemen have been doing is using remote neural monitoring to not only sleep deprive this homeless man who's a targeted individual, but also to torture him with a specific method of sleep deprivation in which the perpetrators wait for the exact moment that the subject is just drifting off to sleep to make a loud noise, thus keeping the subject awake, but also putting the subject into an exhausted state with elevated blood pressure, chest pains, nausea. This might be something that interrogators would use in Guantanamo Bay, but in this case it's being used on a homeless man sleeping on the side of a street. This is the real face of gangstalking and what these guys really do. And this is part one of a couple of videos I'm going to do about sleep deprivation as used in gangstalking.